Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone.
Bienvenue à notre
Well,
session
welcome
de
to our
délibération
first
budgétaire.
budget deliberations.
On va commencer cette
I will
réunion,
be starting the
juste pour,
meeting
souligner, un
just to
événement
mention
tragique qui s'est passé,
a tragic event that happened Saturday.
suite d'un accident tragique.
Following a tragic accident, all our thoughts from the municipal council and the whole communities are with Councillor Patricia Bouk-Chevary and her family and friends. So I'm asking for a minute because of the death of her daughter, Stéphanie Chevary.
Merci.
Thank you.
Je prends aussi l'occasion pour
I'm taking the opportunity to welcome to our new municipal engineering operations, Mr. Fred Duclos. So welcome.
On commence avec un budget.
So we are starting with a budget. So this is the hottest topic, and as always, we are gathering on the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq, whose ancestors signed a peace and friendship treaty with the British Crown in the 1700s. Mr. Clerk, we do have quorum. There's one absent, and one our member is present remotely. So we thank him to keep all his germs to himself. And we're reaching a speedy recovery. So I think you will get better. So, Mr. Clerk, do we have quorum? We do have quorum. So, do we have any council members who would like to declare a conflict of interest on the item? I don't think everyone would, but just in case, thank you. Only one item, budget discussion. So, I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor Germaine Galland, seconded by Councillor Joël Després.
No.
Mr. CEO, he was just looking. All in favor, saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Ouais, ça. Anyway. Pas dit autre que ça.
He didn't tell me otherwise. I did not get the first part of his comment. So this evening, we are starting a first budget discussion. So we'll try to do what we can in the allotted time. So we have other sessions, and we will adopt our budget in mid-November at the latest. So this is the deadline imposed by the province of New Brunswick. So Mr. CEO, would you like to start? So I have the pleasure for the second consecutive year to launch the budget discussion process. So this evening, the finance director will be the one take the lead on the presentation. So this evening, we will ask you to keep an open mind and to keep a critical eye on what will be presented. So this evening we are presenting the concepts where we're going with the presentation of the budget. There's not a lot of numbers this evening specific to the budget, but the themes where we're going to prepare the budget for the global budget. We also printed a budget of the last draft of the 5-year plan. So we will be mentioning it during the presentation. And at the end of the presentation, Monica would like to spend a little bit of time, because this is this part that will orient the financial decision we'll be making, not only this year, but for the following years. We would like to do a quick prioritization exercise, just to see what you would like to see in the budget. But so there's no doubt we'll need to make adjustments over the next few weeks to conclude with the adoption of a budget next month. So again, this evening, give your comments and to finish like a presentation within the next following week. Any questions? I give the steering wheel to Monica, so she can lead you through the deliberations. Well, Mr. Mayor, if you allow me, I will leave the floor to the Finance Director.
Bonsoir, Madame.
Good evening. So good evening, everyone. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Council members, to spend some time with us to discuss the budget. If we would like to go to the next slide, we'll give you an overview of what we'll be discussing this evening. The first item will be current year. It seems is to tell the history where we're at today and where we are currently in terms of expenses as October 7th. It's like a visual of what we spend versus what was the budget for last year. After, we will talk about the budget 2026, so the factor that will come into account for the budget 2026. We'll go through a few proposals, but some changes that might need to be brought to the budget, so we can have an amount, operational amount we can work with. And after, we'll spend quite a bit of time on debt profile, if you had the chance to see the slide. So there are many on the profile. So it's spread out like it's three slides, one for the operational fund and one for the waterfront. It's only to tell the story where we're at currently and where we're trying to go. And then we'll talk about the tax rate, so the shared rate, the forecasted increases for the LST, so that's we'll discuss then. And the last item will be the Scodoc Industrial Park. So this item I will discuss right away. It will probably not brought again, because the Scodoc Industrial Park will have its own budget. So we'll see. Let's say we have the operation fees, the revenues. So this year we're expecting a deficit just a little bit under $100,000, and these are investments. It will become cost effective with this park, but its account we will have this separately. So the deficit this year will be absorbed in our operational budget, but over time we'll be able to make profits with this part, but we always keep it separate. And that's what we will be discussing this evening. So that's where we at, in our agenda. Anyone who have questions on this one? Yes. Councillor Paul Boudreau. So you're saying the Scodoc Industrial Park, will it involve human resources like Danny, Jonathan? So the industrial park, will it all include the salaries? It will continue to be with economic developments, and we will be some branches of economic developments that will come out of the operational budget for the town Chediac, and the operating budget is what we would like to keep separate. So the budget lines they have right now, so that's why we intended to do. I know it goes far. Will it end another human resources to the industrial park? Well, something we'll be able to present after. Currently, we'll see what we can do, with the employees who are already in place to do the day-to-day of the park. But when we present the budget, I don't want to say line by line, but department by department, we will be talking about human resources with the park. Thank you very much. If we start with the current year, I will bring your attention to the next slide. And I'm hoping you excuse me. I like tables and numbers. It might seem a little bit heavy, but if you allow me, I will go through the columns we have there. And what I was trying to do with this slide. So the second one, the tax base, it should be also in your presentation, the budget deliberations. In our document list, Councillor Boudreau, it would be the last one. It's a budget 2026 PDF deliberations. Perfect. You can continue. So I apologize, I forgot to tax base in this one, but that's what it meant. So the old Chediac territory for 2021, 2022, so the numbers represent only like the old Chediac. That's why there is a major increase in 2023. And this number, of course, like is tax assessment for all the properties that are located in the territory. If you look 2023, we had 1.4 billions for the greater town of Chediac. Since then, this year we went 2026, 2 billions worth in tax assessment. So this amount represents an increase 6% for the tax assessments compared to a previous year. And later in our presentation, where we talk about the impact of the tax freeze for the tax assessment 2026, it's something here that we have an increase of 6%, but the revenue, they're based on the 2025 amount, 1.9 billion. The second columns were the warrant. So that's the revenue that generated by tax assessments. So the numbers, we started at 10.8 million in 2021. And in 2026, we are proposing to go to 25 billions. Well, there's other the other thing to consider, like the residential ratio, and also the planned increase for the LSTs of Pointe du Chêne, Scodoc Road, and Chediac Cape. So they're part of this 25 millions. If there's no increase, the number is of 25 million would be 24,700,000. That would be 7% higher than last year. So proposing like to get an additional 3% revenue in the warrant with these recommendations. As for like the non-tax revenue, you can notice it's going from 3.4 million. 2026 we're 1.7, close to 1.7 million. The main reason for this decrease is the transfer payment that was reduced over time because of the regional service commission. So the money is deposited directly with them so they can fulfill their mandate. So it reduced the amounts for the municipalities. And we also saw some decreases in the budget for building permits like within the town of Chediac. So we had a great increase over the last few years, but it's stabilizing. So this is revenue we have receiving in less. It brings to the last column like total revenue. So this is like the results of all the revenues from one year to another. If you can see like with the percentage, in 2023, we had a major increase of 22%. And since there, we're still increasing, but not as much. We see 14% in 2024, 13, 2025, in 2026, we're expecting like 5%. And this what is very related like to the decision to freeze like the assessments. So it plays on our possible revenues. And the two last columns, I just want to bring this to our attention. The population we had during each of these, the first column for 2021, 6,664. So it was the old Chediac territory. The population for what's the greater Chediac territory would have been 10,670 persons. Since 2021, the greater increase close to 2,000 individuals due to the reform, but also due to the increase in population moving to town. We can see it has an incidence on the revenues we are receiving, but we also have to consider like the tax, the CPI will show some fluctuation. So the 7.3 in 2022. So it means like, so the price of all our goods and services is higher. higher. So it costs more to manage a town and also costs more for construction project and all the projects we're doing on a daily basis. So we see like a decreasing rate for the CPI, but the consumer prices, and would see the projection stating maybe 3 to 4% over the next couple of years, but should stabilize, but with an increase. It will have an incidence on our interest rates and also the fees for our projects. Any questions so far on this specific slide? No?
Councillor
O'Brien, if ever you have a question, just let us know one way or another. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we'll go to the next slide. Thank you, Sylvain. So this is just a snapshot of the expenditures as of October 7, 2025. Just so everyone is on the first page, the column in blue is the 2025 budget. The one in the column in gray is the expenses as of October 7, and the one in yellow, dark yellow, these are the real costs in 2024. So that's what we spend. So there's a few columns like the expenses, like they were not all done. Just a quick reminder, we are in October, so it's normal, like some fees have not been incurred yet. So we still have some salaries to pay in a lot of those categories. So it explains like the gap. And there is also some categories where the cost was higher than expected. And I can bring your attention to the last category, like financial services. We budgeted an amount for the debt to long-term debt, so the capital and interest, and there was also a forecast to do like for the interest short term. So the interest on the credit line and the projects we already have been approved, but the project is not completed yet. So we had to reconsider like a few things. So the credit lines were higher than what was forecasted. So we incurred like additional costs. We are expecting to find like what's missing like amount like within the operational budget without having an impact on the amount we would like to put in our reserve fund. But if ever this amount, if it's a decision like you decide to do. Good. Good. Questions for the current year? And now we can go to the 2026 budget. So here we wanted like to mention a few highlights for the next slide. So the highlights we would like to discuss today, and just to make sure everyone understands what's happening with our budget and why we have the impact we have. So there are three things that are playing like a role in our budget we would like to discuss. It's a spike protection mechanism. So this mechanism is already in place, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. So the tax rate will not increase more than 10% on the tax evaluation. So this year the impact is not there because there is an assessment freeze. There is an assessment freeze. So that freeze this year means that even if this house receives its evaluation and the amount increase, it will still be a tax raise based on the 2025 tax assessment. So regardless, like if your assessment increase in 2026, but you will be paying taxes according to 2025 rate. So there will be also like some revenues that we won't receive. And this freeze applied to those who are staying in their own house. If you sell your house, the new owner will pay their full value of the tax assessments, and all new construction, they will have to pay for the full value. So that's where we see 1.5 million of difference between the last year and this year with the first slide that I was showing you for the tax base. So this is this difference we can see like in our tax assessment. Maybe just to add, so you know, like we have 282 millions next year in the tax assessment that is frozen. We're not receiving like no taxation revenue. Like we have a meeting tomorrow, like to know. We're hoping like to get the amount. So where is the amount? So it was for last year, and of course, like the assessments, the home assessment will continue to increase, but the resident will continue to benefit like from last year's rate. It means like the bank. So the mechanism protection will only increase spike protection. So it means like it will. These amounts we're not receiving any amount. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on this one. And even like before the freeze.
Le mécanisme du spike
protection. So the spike protection mechanism is something that's been existing since 2013, and right now in New Brunswick, it's maybe a little bit more than half of the properties who are benefiting from the spike protection. It's not only like a small part or a few properties or 100 properties. It's more than half of the properties in New Brunswick. So it has an impact. It has a major impact here and elsewhere. Councillor Joël Després, thank you. Yves, I asked you the question like at the last meeting. So how we will receive the money will not receive because of the freezing. Y'all consider like the old LSTs like with the increase we had, what would be the difference? So Monica will be mentioning this soon, but even like the increase we're forecasting like for the former LSTs to bring like to the real gel rate. So it represents maybe 349,000. So it's only. This is the 5% increase, so it does not take into consideration like the assessments that would be above this. But we're not receiving what would be. It's not divided in the zone. It's for the whole territory that we have the spike protection. I do not want to confuse you, but 16 or 1700 properties that are benefiting from the spike protection mechanism are the majority from Chediac, and the 100 in Scodoc, 100 Chediac Bridge. We have no idea how they divide it. It's not done this way. But we could ask the question, and the information might take a time before we get it. But essentially what we are proposing this year, there will not be this extra evaluation that will be considered in the former LSTs. Thank you. So the next slide, the next part is the increase in tax-based assessment. So the 6.6%, I will already discuss this. So we are at 2 billion like in tax assessment, tax-based assessment, and it's an increase, 126 billion increase compared to last year. So these are mainly like new construction and sales of house. So the next item to discuss, non-residential rate. So at the reform, so the calculation for the tax base was done with the tax assessment residential and 1.5 times for non-residential rate. So when the reform happened, the option was put on the table by the province, so the municipality could get up to 1.7 the times of the non-residential rate. If the municipality chose to do so, it would increase its revenue. And the non-residential did not see a difference because they were already paying that rate. So now the municipality, we are been charging a 2.5, like since 2023. Our recommendation go from 1.5, sorry, to 1.7. So it would generate like the extra revenue of $541,000 in revenue. It's something we'll have to consider and discuss, but this is a recommendation we are making in comparison with other municipalities, looking at our needs with what's missing. And it's a suggestion that we would like to bring to your attention. We had discussed it also last year. We had told you, like, the recommendation was not to get there right away, but was to look at this year. It's for this reason we're bringing it back. So the total impact with the reform is before the reform, the province eliminated, reduced the space so the municipalities could get it. We never try to get it. Essentially, there was a reduction, a tax reduction for non-residential. So we're looking to get it back and to put it almost to the same level it was before. Councillor Janice Cormier, can you define what's falling into non-residential? So non-residential essentially it's vacant land, commercial land, and also apartment buildings, etc. It's everything that is considered non-single family dwelling. If I can use like the broad term, there is like a definition on the tax assessment, but I don't have it. But that's what I wanted to mention to you. Councillor Paul Boudreau, question. It's interesting, like, so the possible increases in revenues, like we're talking about the industrial park in Skodok for incentive, like to motivate or encourage, like the non-residential, as Janice to the park. If our rates were competitive, like to the Caledonia or Dieppe Industrial Park, are we higher with this amount? Essentially, like I can tell you, if we compare to Moncton, there are two rates. There's a non-residential and the heavy industry. So the 1.5, you can reduce it to 1.4, like and 1.4 and 1.7 for non-residential heavy industry. We would follow, like the non-residential became maybe comparative to the heavy industry. So in there were analysis. It's the municipalities, and almost like all the municipalities were able to get that space, and we did not get it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but by saying this, but we never got this money. So technically, we are more competitive than the others, but the other municipality were able to get it, and we did not get it. It's just to give some tools to the economic development, encourage the development of the industrial park, but we can continue like to give like incentive or benefits, but it will not stop like another mechanism to. It could be like a shortfall depending on the amount we would like to include. Essentially, like it's easier to put everyone in the same boat for the same amount, and then you can account like all the grants and like a grant for some kind of development or as an incentive. So I wanted to echo like whether 1.5, 1.7, there's a lot of municipalities went there, and the tax rate for the one in Skodok is the same as the one for Skodok. It's clearly under like the rate of the former town of Shediac or the city of Dieppe and Moncton are charging. So there is like certainly a benefit, like just by adjusting from 1.5 to 1.7, it will help with our revenues, but it will not make like the development of these lands like unaffordable. It answers my question, so maybe a very good point, Mr. Mayor, but So the taxation rate is lower than other commercial centers, but the non-residential rate, they do not pay like the 41 and 15 for the roads. So they're still benefiting from savings. They're not paying like for road maintenance. And when we're looking at this type of commercial industry, so we're talking about heavy trucks and the heavy industry, we could even say like they're using the road, they are more damaging the roads, but they're not paying like to rehabilitate them. So this is good news. Okay, you can continue, Monique. So the last item, this is the capital renewal funding. Is something Yves already discussed, and this year this funding program from the province, they are offering to each municipality like a core amount of $50,000, and it's based on a ratio proportional to the accounting value of our assets. So the town of Chediac received $515 $1,000 additional to apply like on capital asset. Just to know with the upcoming decision, this amount is already accounted for. We added it to the 5-year rent, not on the copies you have, but for the calculations of the ratio. So it's already part. They reduce like some projects every year to we assume we receive like an amount of 561,000 a year. We are hoping to increase, but it's something we did consider in the calculations of our ratio. This is for
renewal of existing
infrastructure. We cannot do to build something new, but we can use it to renew like existing infrastructure.
You redo the surface of the road. There's a building, let's say. We want to change the roof. We can do many different projects, but the recommendation is simplify things, is obviously to leave it at a single project. We'll do a street resurfacing project, for example, where we renew a project, let's say 500,000. It won't even cover the whole project, but it's a step forward in terms of the fiscal reform. Another thing I'd like to say for council members, the increase of the tax envelope was 6.6% this year. There's new construction, and maybe when a property is resold, not the majority of cases, for the town of Chediac, and compared to other municipalities in New Brunswick, we're the town with the highest growth rate, better than our neighbors in the Greater Moncton. I'm going to brag it up when I see them. It's good news. There are even a few municipalities in the province, a half dozen or so, where the fixed number is negative. It's not growth. They've shrunk. So that doesn't at all help their revenues. And many of them, instead of having a rate around 5 or 6%, they're around a half to 1 to 2. When you consider that there's always a rate of inflation, CPI, you have to deal with that from the start. Things will cost more. Gasoline will cost more. Whatever you do, basically. The fact of how to have growth is good news for us. We're rather fortunate with that. But anyone who asks me, for each dollar that we have, we could spend 15, easy. That's why you have to make choices. I just wanted to raise this. The provincial average was 2.7% this year. We're above the average, but it's less than what we were used to before, and what we need for our community that is growing. What supports the 6.6? Is it from 2025 into 2026, or is something that we're looking at the future? What explains that? It's a new construction for this year of 2025 that we will see in 2026, new construction, and the home sales. For example, myself and the mayor, we live in the same street. I have a house it's worth 200, assessed at 200,000. The mayor, exact same house, it's assessed at 200,000. But just for the sake of tax argument around tax, the assessment is 250. But I decide to sell my house. He pays 150. I pay 150. I sell it. The new person will pay as if it was assessed at 200. It removes the spike protection for the new owner. So we've seen what the houses were sold for 2025. This is the province that calculates this. The province does this. We don't do this. No. I just wanted to know what backed all that up. Honestly, it was a surprise. It was a surprise that we'd be at that level, actually. When we started working on the budget, we foresaw maybe 3%. Now the average is 2.69, and we were foreseeing about 3%. We'll take the 6.6, but it's less than we've had in previous years. And we'll need to make some decisions to perhaps slow down certain projects to continue and make sure that we have good financial health. Continue, Madam Director. So if there are no more questions, let's go to the debt profile. This figure is a little less happy, a happy one. This this one starts to make life interesting. Next slide. So the summary here, the chart on top is the general operating fund, and the bottom one is the water fund. The goal of this chart is to show the debt ratio that is foreseen if we go forward with the 5-year plan as it is presented before you right now. The last column is if we try to stagger the 5-year plan. That table, the ratio, I don't want you to become too attached to those figures. The staggering that I did, just to by way of example, it's just to skip a year for each project in each of the categories. Instead of having one project each year, I staggered them over a longer period of time, and we're out into 2042 instead of 2034. This is something that we'd have to look into with the council in terms of putting the priority in what project. Sorry. So, with all that, if you look at the middle column, it's 2026, we foresee a debt rate of 11%. In 2027, it's up to 22%. For that municipality to be comfortable with a debt ratio, we want to be between 10 and 11 and 12%. Once you get past 20%, you need special permission from the province. It takes an action plan to show how you get out of the situation where you're at 20%. So this is something, well, I don't want people to become worried about it, but I think it's time to address it, though. There'll be some decisions to make. So in terms of how to stagger the projects, what's necessary, what can we get additional funding for, and there's a note on the bottom. This assumes no additional funding sources. There's no grants, there's no federal or provincial partnerships. Just to place the emphasis on the importance of seeking external funding to help us to support what we're trying to accomplish. So it continues to increase. 2030, you see, you'd be at 31%. The way that the ratio is calculated is with the debentures, the upcoming debentures. I'll go over this next slide. 2031 is the year where the rec center comes into the calculations. For that one, I set out 50% financing because it was a large amount. So we presumed that we wouldn't go forward until we got 50% financing. And we'd get to that in the next slide. But in terms of the water fund, it's the same type of situation. You get to 70% in 2028. It's an amount that is a bit uncomfortable. If you think of a budget of $3 million with $2.1 million going into paying debt. So we just want to make you aware that it's time to look at the water rates. The rate has not been increased for a long time. And I was looking at some comparisons with other municipalities of the same size, the same types of budget. I think that we could increase the rates if the council were to support it, but we'll talk more in detail about that when we talk about the water operating fund. And we could look at it again then. Councillor Jeunesse Cormier, thank you. The debt ratio in the operating fund, is it the same criteria as the water fund? No. So the general fund, we say from 10 to 12%. You can be comfortable, but up to 20 is the max. And the water fund, what are the criteria? There's no limit with the water fund. But it's what the municipality is comfortable absorbing. It's up to the municipality to manage its water system, but to plan for if there's something unforeseen that happens and you only have $900,000 to manage it. Are you comfortable with that? Are you going to recommend something? Yes, absolutely. Yes, a plan in terms of what we feel comfortable with as a town. Ultimately, the big project that has an impact on the debt ratio is the trunk line sewer. The expansion of the trunk line will have an impact on finances, but it will unblock development capacity that's waiting for that extra trunk line capacity. It's a bit cat and mouse. We have to do the project to get development. If we don't do the project, we don't get the development. So by doing the project, yes, it's an amount that we have to absorb, but it will improve as there is development. But we still have to see to reviewing user fees, because we're being asked, and constantly, the government is constantly asking every time we go to the borrowing, we recommend that you take a look at your rates. Your rates don't really compare to the ones elsewhere. So we will be presenting to you during the budget, the utilities budget. It will be an adjustment to user fees over a period, so that could have a considerable impact. Thank you. Councillor Paul Boudreau, you have a question? Do we have a list of the major items that are starting to come due? For example, Operations Center on Main Street West, we've done lots, some of them 5 years ago. Are some of them paid off? There's Gallagher, William Brown, Saint Joseph, a little bit of Bro Bridge as well. If you're looking for dates where the existing loans would come to term, we have a debenture that's closing out in 2029. That's the next long-term loan that will be completely paid, will be in 2029. I didn't take down the names of the project, but it's a $1.2 million debenture. In 2032 will be done. That's $1.6 million. In 2031, there's two more, amounts $2.9 million. And 2030, and $700,000 in 2034. It's interesting to see what we have done and how much we still have to pay. It gives you a bit of an idea around the years. It's really in the 2030s more than anything else. And you will see, I don't want to tease the next slide, but the amount of projects that we're doing is much more than previous years. So, to be able to do everything that we need to do, because we're a community that is growing, we need to finance using long-term capital, and that has a long-term impact on our debt ratio, debt rate. debt ratio. Thank you, Councilor Boudreau. The next one. So for the debentures, these are long-term loans. What have we borrowed from the lending commission? So I'll just present the history of where we've come from and where we're heading. 2015, 2023, there's a total of 8 debentures, 8 long-term loans. The amount is $16 million. In 2024, we borrowed twice. Total is 4.3 million. In 2025, there was one long-term loan. The amount is 12.8 million, and order in council approved. That for which we asked permission to borrow for project that are underway right now. There are 4. The amount is 24 million. And that's exactly it, Madam Councillor. And so 5-year plan, there would be 85 new loans from here to 2034, and the total amount is about 220 million. There's a lot of this. It's something big in there. So what we've assumed here is we foresee one debenture for all vehicles in the 5-year. It's one debenture for all vehicles and equipment. We foresee the amount for the recreation center will be 50% of the value in your copy of the 5-year plan. That amount would be 56 million. So it is the construction, design, and the outdoor land that would be in the debenture. And there's no debenture foreseen for the Scudo industrial part as well. That would just increase what's there. It's a long list, but we don't need to do the whole list at the same time. Well, obviously, it's just say our studies have shown that these places, be they culverts, be they buildings, be they pipes underground, under our streets, they need our attention. They don't need it next week, but they need some attention. And we can't just say, well, they're fine for the next 50 years. They don't need anything. This will come sooner than later. If I might add, yes, 85, big number. But the 220 million is an even bigger number compared to what we've done over the past 9 years. In the last 10 years, we foresee a lot more for the next 10 years. The 5-year plan was built based on assessments and the transportation master plan, stormwater master plan, the asset management plan. It was built with a collection of tools so that this is the best scenario, and we were very aggressive. We've said that, we've told you that we need to test our financial capacity. So what we're presenting today is the reality of our financial capacity. We'll probably need to make adjustments and identify priority files and priorities, but not just in terms of ensuring critical infrastructure, but also in terms of the council's priorities. So that's why we're quickly going to go through the first draft. We've made some forecasts around amounts, but not projects. But if the council wants to have one project ahead of another, we'll have some flexibility to analyze it so that next time we meet, we'll be able to share more or less what the real impact is in relation to financial capacity. Councillor Janice Cormier, you have a question? Yes, Your Worship. When I see 85, this means that it's 85 loans, requests, applications. From what I've understood, and I see in the budget here, in the vehicle fleet and recreation, there are many purchases that will be done in the next 5 years. It's potentially that. So you're talking vehicle fleet? There's one debenture only, as I foresaw for that. One debenture per vehicle. So each year, if we have $100 in equipment, vehicles, and we have to replace 10 a year, we'll do one request to replace 10 vehicles. It's just to simplify. If there's 100 pieces of equipment, we won't do 100 debenture applications. So this is what we're asking for the next 5 years, based on what we would need to get there, to accomplish it. Thank you. Governing is a question of making choices. It's always like that. Councillor Paul Boudreau, if you allow, Your Worship, last year we started to share with you the importance of debt. Even in May or April, the auditors came and they shared, oh, Yves, you have a debt ratio of 5, 6, 7%. I forget which one it was. You're in good financial health. But they only analyze what is already a long-term debenture. We already had projects that had been approved that we were going forward with. We knew that they would have an impact. Last year, we presented a debt ratio of 12 or 13% for this year, which was actual. We're more or less in the same spot. The trunk line hasn't moved forward as quickly as thought, or Bridge Street. We're just staggering as we go, but we do see a trend that the debt ratio will continue to increase. That's why we started to talk to you about it last year. Sorry, Your Worship. That's fine. That's fine. Thanks for the explanation. Councillor Paul Boudreau, how often and how seriously is the municipality speaking to our partners in other government levels in terms of these projects? I'll go around the table. You see the figures regularly. 220 million. We have MLAs. We have a minister. We have another provincial representative. Are they aware of our plans and what we're foreseeing? For example, the gas tax. Is there an amount that we can base ourselves on? 2 million, 5 million for next 5 years? The gas tax, we've already allocated it in full to the fire hall for the next 5 years. Okay? This reduces the project from 8 million to 5 million, and this is for our taxpayers. If I can speak to it administratively, yes, we have regular discussions with SDR and funders. Politically, I'm not saying we don't talk to politicians, but any opportunity the mayor has to meet a minister or something like that, we're there. We always try to discuss. We have such and such a project. We have these priority files, and we always try to get them aware of projects for which we need financing. The problem is we're not the only ones knocking at the door for financing. Buzzword is climate change. I see a lot of applications for culverts and pipes. If there's opening there for the federal representative to get help to meet our climate change objectives, listen, it's a challenge that we have at Pointe-du-Chêne. It's a coastal region. I'm just looking in terms of looking for help. I'd be one of the first to admit it. We might not be regularly knocking at doors. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It's less of a habit to knock on doors in the past few years. We were growing. There's financing and partners weren't maybe at the table, and we had to move forward. It has an impact. Our debt ratio has increased more quickly. By way of example, the overpass on Chesley. Normally, it should have been perhaps more of a provincial project than municipal, but we really needed it. So on a priority basis, we invested perhaps more than we should have, more than our fair share. It has a long-term impact on our finances, no doubt about it. We're talking about it internally. We need to become conditioned to have a mechanism that for each project, it's a box that we have to check off. Have we applied for sources of financing? Have we knocked on doors for financing? Are there any programs available? It's whether it's not just be provincial or federal. Maybe there are other partners, other organizations. We need to be more conditioned to knock on all possible doors. It's clear to get to do things long term. We need more partners to eliminate the impact on our finances. And this involves the community as well. And projects like the Recreation Center, well, will be asked more and more by provincial and federal funders. What is the community contribution? Not the tax-wise. What type of financing campaign is included in such and such a project? So we need to be more conditioned. That has become more automatic on our part. Maybe we won't propose a project until we have checked off all the boxes and knocked on all the doors to see if we can find different partners to help us. Thank you. We have no choice. We have to look at this more and more to improve this situation. And 6.6%, does that include Maison Providence project? Yes, that would include the new build at Villa Providence. So if Villa Providence had not been built, it would have less of an impact. I'll admit it. The new school contract will help us in subsequent years as well. The tender has been awarded, but the building permit, will it be this year, next year? Is it this year's revenue or next year's revenue? It could have an influence on things. The revenue will come in the year it comes. Thank you, Yves. We have no control over that.
Councillor McEnroy.
Councillor McEnroy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wondering with regard to the slide that's in front of us, the reference to the 5-year plan, are you actually working with the 9-year plan?
Yeah.
I don't for the life of me understand why, with that much money that's not available to us, with that much debt that we're looking at, why we don't do a 5-year plan. Don't most municipalities do 5-year plans?
We will be doing a 5-year plan. What we're telling you is the first version that we presented to you
Is 9 years.
is we cannot afford it. So we'll have to make some adjustments.
So we shouldn't be fretting too much over, this is just to show us how bad it is, and we gotta smarten up and cut loose a lot of stuff, right?
Yes, well understood, Councillor McEnroy.
Okay.
Some stuff will have to wait.
It just wasn't clear to me where we were headed, but so yeah, we have to know it's going to be. It ain't going to be easy, and we can't keep doing. In my view, we've invested a lot in infrastructure, and some we're committed to fulfilling, of course, like the trunk line. We have to wait until some of the revenue generating catches up to where we're going. We can't keep saying we're growing. Let's keep going. You're going to grow yourself into real financial difficulty, or we are. I mean,
yeah.
And on that point of future revenue, does the government pay grant in lieu of tax? For example, the high school. How would revenue be generated from the province to the town on that facility?
Yes, there is payment in lieu of taxes. Like last year, there wasn't anything. This year, we're getting 10,000. So it's a payment that's going to come for properties that don't pay taxes.
So the guilt payments are also at the federal level. The federal buildings in town.
I'm not.
They do pay an amount of tax. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm familiar with from my past experience. They don't pay a tax rate, and they don't even accept the assessment.
That's true.
From the province typically. Yeah. So there's always been a lot of arguing back and forth as to what the value is going to be based on. It ends up being because they're not subject to the tax. So it's a grant in lieu of tax. I just wanted to be sure that we had that was in place here. And also the non-residential, I'm used to commercial industrial. Is that the same thing?
Yes and no, because the non-residential is a wider
category. But it includes
wider category, but yes, it would include.
It includes restaurants and banks and all the commercial stuff as well as commercial apartments.
And there is a special designation for heavy industry as well, which would basically, for our territory, I think the only place that we might have some in Shediac, some small ones.
No.
So just the Skidoock Industrial Park would have heavy industry tax rate there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Merci.
You may continue. If there is no more questions, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is the follow-up of what we were looking at just now, the debentures that the four orders of or council that we have right now. I'll just show you what it means financially in terms of when we get the debenture. Even if a project starts in 2026, let's say that the project is done in 2028, that based my calculations based on 2028, will the impact be on the budget? How much are we paying in principal and how much in interest? And how much are we paying back in interest for short-term loan for the other projects that we're working on based on the 5-year plan? So this chart shows that if the 5-year plan were to remain as it is, just for your information, the amortization periods for the loans that Mr. Boudreau was discussing. For a building, it takes 20 years to pay the debt. Roads, trails, that's over 15 years. If it's a field, it's 5 years. Vehicles, equipment is 5 years. And a fire truck is 15 years. That is the period that is allocated for each of those loans based on the year where the asset comes into service. That's where we start to pay the debt. So in the first column, the debt ratio without additional investment, let's say there was no 5-year plan, the town stopped going forward. That's what it would look like for the next until 2034. A nice ratio, but not doable in terms of operating a town and maintaining our assets and accommodate the development that we're seeking to accomplish. So the next column is the proposed investment. That's the amount, the sum of those amounts. It's the amount of the full project that we're investing that year. So in 2026, there's 12 million projects planned. In 2027, another 12 million. And this has an impact on our debt ratio. We're going from 11% in 2026 to 22% in 2027, and so on and so forth over the years. So see, if I might bring your attention to the 2031 line, the 67 million, that's the year with the Recreation Center would have its impact, and that's where we start to repay the debt. In addition to other planned projects or planned to be done over those years. So that's 39% for that year, but in 2032, 33, it's 47, 48%. So just pay attention. If we continue with the plan as it is, it won't work. In terms of going past the 20%. We're trying to pay back debt, but we're trying to make sure that we can properly manage our funds.
I don't know if anyone had any questions on this slide. No. So the next one is it's the same conversation, but if we would delay the amount. Let's say like we delay our projects, there will be an impact. But the percentage, I just want to bring your attention, like 2022 is 40% instead of 47%. To come back to Mr. Councilor Michael's point, focus on the first 5 years. That will be important to choose where we want to go, like which projects we want to tackle. And from there, we'll be able to benefit from the revenues like brought by the projects we're working on today. So it's really like a balance between. I work on the many scenarios to see how can we reduce the debt or the loans we're getting and how we can increase revenues. And as you know, like I'm a resident of the town of Shediac, I did not look at increasing like the tax rate. I'm looking to the revenues, like to look at different level of government development, the increase, or if the spike protection ends or the freeze ends. So all of these elements will come into consideration. I think that's all I had for this slide. Councillor Janice Cormier. So as we go forward, I know the administration is always saying it's up to the council to decide which type of project. Well, we have a plan. We have something like to say. Any recommendations, I think, to solidify, like we do not need this right now, and how it will be in the 5-year plan. We will. We will present in a few weeks like a revised version of the 5-year plan. So it will be a little bit more affordable. We will review the more affordable 5-year plan for what you think, or will we have to provide you? It will be a mix of the two. So what we have. I know it's up to us, but at the end of the day, I don't want us to be stuck making decisions because the council think it's a good thing, but we do not have like the. I will give you the perfect example. So we had a project like on Main Street last year. If this project is similar to a 5-year plan, and it's critical because those pipes have been there for 50 years. We have also a major flood problem when there's a heavy rain. Might be a big culvert that's ready just to crash because it's really old, and we're trying to patch it. Anything that will bring to a critical infrastructure to be unusable, for us, it's a priority. So in our asset management plan, we have get a better picture what's ultra important, and we have to invest. So our recommendation will use this, and it will also include, let's say, that the council wants to continue to invest in sidewalks. We want to continue to have sidewalks like above and beyond building a street or new subdivision. So these things might be put more as a priority in the plan we will put forward. That's why we need to know more or less like what are your priorities. We have an idea that the strategic plan will feed like in the 5-year plan, and we will recommend like to maintain like state of course like with the strategic plan to be priority, like keep some priorities above others, but still the council could say, well, the rec center, like we make a decision, we're not going forward with this. So it will lead to another discussion. So what do we do with the existing arena? So it will have an impact on how we can renew. I'm not saying that's what we will be doing. Like you just have to be aware. Like we're just putting the cards on the table, but you have to make the final decision. But we will provide you with some recommendations according to critical infrastructures. We do not have any choice to replace, but we need some kind of freedom for the council to include them as a priority. So they will focus also, like let's say like on the house, like people, the owners will focus to have like a heavy foundation, but if you have a hole instead of a window, you might have to replace a window instead. So Councillor Boudreau. So the other years we were looking also the operational. I know like the strategy like pay as we go. Is there anything like that like for 2026 to look in detail like what we can pay as we go? Is it something we thought of internally to erase, or maybe like to decrease the number if we can pay it right now instead of I can tell you those numbers include the forecast we will be using in our operating budget. The pay as you go is kind of included in these numbers. So there would be an item in operations budget that will identify like the big ticket item. I'm not talking about $20 million project, but instead of having one debenture for all the trucks and all like the equipment, but there's maybe a smaller piece of equipment, like a push lawnmower, whippersnipper. They might be like an operation budget versus a debenture. Thank you. I'm not saying that the pay-as-you-go will not exist as much, but you'll see the impact that what we have to do. Councillor O'Brien, I don't know if you have any questions or a comment. You're still absorbing those numbers. Thank you very much. No questions for now. So we can continue if there are no question on the debt profile, but the general fund will go like to the water fund. So just one last opportunity if you have any questions. No? Okay, we're good. As for the water fund, the utility fund, sorry, that's what we were discussing earlier. Just to go through like what happened from 2015 to 2023, there were four long-term value of 3 million. 2024, another one for 694,000. Another loan, 2025, we got like a loan 2.3 millions. And right now, like the approval orders, there are three for a total amount of 10.7 millions. And this includes like the trunk sewer line that is active right now. And according to the 5-year plans, up to 2024, we should get like 7 other additional loans for a total amount of 10.8 million. So to see what we did like the last 10 years versus where we're going in the next 10 years. Once again, to accommodate like the expansion of the town, it's also to be careful like how we will manage those projects and to revisit the possibility of maybe delay some of those projects. Or really like to not do that project at all if the need is not there. It's something to be reassessed. So next slide. So the debt profile, according to the 5-year plan, you see like with the utility fund, it's not as busy as it was with the general fund. We're looking at some investment at the end of projects once again. So there would be some in 2026, 2028. And from there, these are smaller amounts, 29, 2030, and 2033, and 2034. For the peak of the debt ratio would be in this is 65% in 2028. I don't know, a lot of it would be converted 70% to go forward, like 70%, sorry. But something to be revisited by looking at the calculation and numbers. We are thinking of a proposal to increase the fees. Right now, we say something $150 like on a 4 or 5 year period. So we would suggest maybe to start with a $30 increase for this year, maybe $40 for any subsequent years to prepare for the major year in 2028 because it could come into effect. It's something we will go in details once the budget is discussed, but just so you know like it's coming. Just to see like the increase is talking about, it's not calculated in those numbers. So if we're talking about a possible increase like for the water service, it would improve like the situation. Council Després, did I understand well like the trunk line, sewer trunk line would fall under the utility fund? Is it usual? It's kind of weird, but it's not abnormal. So you don't think we're collecting, but not the taxes, but the fees like from the residents for the utility fund. But if something critical happened on the water system, so we are applying it on the sewer line. Well, essentially, like the way like the funding was given with the ongoing projects like from the commission was not able like to do this expansion with their own financial analysis. It was decided that the municipality would take over. So the user rate, like the user will still pay, but instead of paying this, paying from this like a sewer fee, it will pay like with the water bill. Will it impact like the reserve for us? Yes, it will. And essentially, we will take care of the capital, but eventually we will give this action to the commission from the Shediac and Sewer and Water Commission. So they will be responsible for the maintenance, but we have to own it for a certain amount of time.
la subvention.
Because we are receiving that grant. So there is a rule. If you're getting like a grant, you cannot like sell the asset 1 or 2 years after. We need, because we need like to reimburse like the amount we receive. That's what we will, in our books, it will try this still the owner, but then after a while, it will be transferred like to the Shediac Sewer Commission. Legally, no, cannot do it. It has to fall like in the utilities budget.
Ça, c'est seulement l'impact
Finally, it's the impact from our part, like the 2 million part out of a 12 million project. So the 10 millions are coming like between the province and the federal government. So what we see how it impact our utility fund, we do not have a super big budget for the utility fund, but we still have one. But the impact is there. So basically, we would need our saving like on our trunk line. We're not using our savings like it. So this increase for the trunk line, so maybe like the debt ratio is not as good. So that's why the increase of the fees will be required to pay for this expansion. Essentially, like the users will have to pay certain amount for that pipe, for that line. It's not Councillor McElroy.
Speaking of the trunk line, there was some reference earlier to the fact that development is waiting in the wings for it. Are we waiting in the wings with a development fee? Something as major as that's going to benefit a lot of, it's going to result in a lot of development. It's going to benefit a lot of private sector builders, but the taxpayers should be recouping the costs, or to some extent, of providing that trunk line.
We're currently evaluating a development charge framework for, and I'll just correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm looking at Nick and Fred, more Nick than Fred. The Breau Bridge extension, for instance, will develop new lands or unlock new lands. So we're looking at a development charge framework for that we can ultimately replicate for other projects and other areas. So can we look at it for new developments on the trunk line? Absolutely. It's something that we can replicate. We're currently working with a consultant to help us out to develop that framework. There's going to be some consultations that are going to happen with community stakeholders, but also with council in the next few months. So obviously, if that's something that council want to see, I would recommend that they talk about it so we can capture it when we develop our framework. That can be, and I don't want to call it an automatic, but it'll be a mechanism that we can recoup some of those investments that the municipalities and our ratepayers will be making.
Well, that's encouraging, because for years we haven't been. Yeah, we've been missing out on investing public funds for the benefit of private development, and I think those gentlemen will know better than I do. But it seems to me that doesn't happen very many places in Canada anymore.
No, and we've been working. It's a firm called Watson. It's a firm that our neighbors are currently using and developing the same framework. So we're piggybacking off what other jurisdictions are doing, notably Moncton and Dieppe, to help us develop our own framework. And we've been working with the firm, I want to say, 7-8 months now to kind of develop our framework. So they need to analyze. There's an actual specific project that we can base our modeling on. What we'll charge, what can't we charge, and it's like I said, they're going to come to council in the next few. I don't want to say weeks, but originally they were supposed to come around this time frame for budget. Unfortunately, with Bob's departure, with everything, we kind of delayed a few weeks. But by the end of the year, our goal is to come back to council with a consultation on PC charges to implement on the municipal side.
Okay. Thank you.
That's good. Thanks for the question. On continue.
Merci.
Thank you. So the next slide. So if there are no more questions, we'll go to the next slide.
C'est ça. Donc, si l'impact d'un plan décalé,
So the impact of a delayed 5-year plan, 70% will remain as is because the order is already in force.
Tu peux remplir le ventre si tu veux.
He said you can fill in. Essentially, like if you see the impact,
L'impact sur
the impact
le profil d'endettement,
on the debt profile,
selon le plan quinquennal,
according to the 5-year plan, would be,
l'impact sur
and the impact
un décalage du plan
and
quinquennal,
delayed of the 5-year
l'impact est
plan,
quand même négligible.
the impact is still minimal because we still have like
du trunk line,
the trunk line projects with
l'impact est peut-être négligible.
so the impact might be very small, but it shows the importance to look at the rate even if the project is still going forward.
Merci, Yves.
Thank you, Yves.
Tu peux répéter tout ce que j'ai dit.
You can repeat what I said.
Yes,
He said you owe him $5.
Je sais pas s'il y a d'autres questions sur le plan.
Any other questions on the 5-year plan, the delayed ones? If not, we can continue.
Excusez-moi. La dernière diapositive.
The last slide is the tax rate. So that's where like we are closing like our presentation and we're going back like to the amount presented at the beginning of the evening, how we got like to the 25 million 39,000 for the Shediac entity. To get there, we are suggesting to freeze like the rate for the old town of Shediac to remain to 1.4434. 4334. The town, like the authority that was given by the province.
Ça veut dire town, ville ou
yeah, town and bill. Oh, TV, that's why they had TV, so town and bills. And for the LSDs to continue with the plan to increase like the tax rate to get to a closer to share rate. So the share rate is changing every year because of the fees that are local and the shared fees. So the rate is close like to the 68 cents. So if we increase like the two LSCs 5 cents, we would be like 55.81, and then the 57.31 for Pointe du Chien. We're getting closer like to increase those rates. And the last adjustment would be to increase like the non-residential 1.5 to 1.7. And if we include those three factors, we're coming final amount like of the $25 million. So these are my items for today. Any questions on those rates?
Alors, peut-être aller au dernier slide.
Maybe go to the last slide. So the recommendations or the concepts we'll be asking to keep in mind would be
l'ancien taux de Shediac,
so the Shediac TV, like the old Shediac, would be similar to the one of last year. So we continue with the increase for the former LSDs or the two LSDs to bring them to the real shared rate. Would meet like a Shediac continue like to fund like the shortfall, and we would review. We would adjust like the non-residential from 1.5 to 1.7, and we would be looking to increase the $30 for this year for the water service rate. As a concept, when we will present the budget, so that's what we're working with. If you're saying this evening we're not ready, we want to do X, Y, Z, we will do some adjustment, and we're just sharing with you like the 5 cents represent maybe 350,000 for the two LSDs for additional revenue. So the 1.5 to 1.7 represent 530,000 of revenues. And the rest would be go from the adjustment for 5 to 6%. You have a budget of $25 million, and it would 26 point. It does not have the exact number. 26.7 millions as operating budget.
OK. Voilà. Quelle question? Conseiller Jean-Claude Bertrand.
Councillor Jean-Claude Bertrand. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Augmente de 0.5 cents, tu dis?
The point, 5 cents. So will they come to the same amount that we are paying? It will stop after. So the shared rate would be 65, 66 cents.
Excuse-moi, va peut-être me corriger, là.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought it would be 61, but
Non, c'était environ 65, 66.
would be around like a 65 cents. What should be the share rate? So if we try to trying like to equalize all the expenses like with the other authorities, that includes the old Chediac, the former lessees would not be paying on the services for the transportation services, for snow removal, snow street resurfacing. So they're not paying like for initiatives for economic development, for financial incentives, and so on and so forth. So these amounts it's only like for the tax taxation authority. I'm saying solely because the other, like Chediac, the others are paying part of it, but these amounts we have to maintain like the existing rate because these territories, they are almost empty. These are agricultural lands, so very, very little residential development there. There's a few little development, but it's very minimal, so the rates will remain the same, except if we offer a new service. Just to give an example, if we had possibly the new recreation center, we could now tax like those lines or these taxation authority that we are now doing now, because it's a new service that we did not have before. We can offer this new location. So what? Maybe you can go back like to the one you had. So the first column is we're talking 55, 80, and Pointe-du-Chêne, 57 and 30. So the goal is to bring those two rates to the share rate of 67 or 68 cents, which is the real rate. The real share rate. Essentially, the Chediac rate could be reduced as we presented last year to up to which level? Well, so we have some challenges with for the tax-free assessment rates, like the spike mechanism, protection mechanism. So we cannot decrease it this year. So we're asking the Chediac to continue like to invest in the municipality's project. So this year we cannot reduce the rate, not for this year. Councillor Paul Boudreau, just a difference in numbers, $6,000. When we're talking about the 1.5 to 1.7% for non-residential rate, 541,000 recommendation, 535, 541,000 is the right number. So a $6,000 difference. You have a ballpark. The difference in revenue like 2025, 2026, is it 1 million on the tax rate? 1.5. 1.5 million more to invest in infrastructure and the services in the town, and also like with the debt or the debts of the town. We can go back a few slides, but it gives you an idea. But So with the document we received from the province, it gives a table like for all the municipalities, like a comparison chart, what they receive, like and all the amounts they're receiving as transfer payments and grants. So we consider a municipality that has a financial needs, so we're getting an amount that is lower. And when the finance director talked before the reform, she was saying we received like $600,000. It's reduced year after year, but there is an amount like that is given to the service commission. It reduced our bill. Our grant is 70,000 or 71,000 for the current year. So we're getting less money. We were even, as they told us, like we would put in the one page, or so it gives like the grant for Shediac. So we will put in a category that was called municipal centers. So the province during the reform took the 77 municipalities and they put them in a comparative groups, 6 comparative groups specifically, and we will put with the municipal center. But when we're looking at the analysis, we're considered one of the municipalities, and not the richest, but the most able, like to be self-sufficient, self-fund. So it means that the other municipalities that are under a threshold, they have a greater grant, they have a bigger transfer payment. The agreement was done like when, let's say we would be put at the bottom, the impact would be like small, according to what was presented by the province. I also sat like on the provincial council for the tax reform, and also I asked the very same question, and they showed the numbers. These numbers would have been minimal as an impact. Councillor Janice Cormier, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment before we continue. I would really like to give a big thank you to Monica and her team. A great presentation. She started this summer. I think it put me like the place I should be, like to think of different things. So we will start to have more difficult conversations. Thank you to your new team. It was extremely done. I really appreciated your presentation.
Councillor O'Brien,
Councillor O'Brien, you have a question? Could I go back, like when you have the tax rate? Shediac Pointe-du-Chêne and
the chart before that one. That one? Yes, that one. Just a technical question. I was wondering, for example, for Pointe-du-Chêne, 57 cents. They'll be paying 50 cents per $100 of assessment. Is there an amount, just to give you an example, for protective services, like the police? Is what, do we know how much is going to them and as well as Squidok and Shediac Cape? Or is there protection included in the town budget for 2.6 million? Is it included in there? Or is it separate? Based on the territory. It's separated by territory. So the protection fees are classified as a shared service. So it disperses the location throughout each of the entities. Thank you. Okay. All residents pay the same rate. For protection, fire, police, whether you're living in Pointe-du-Chêne or in Shediac, everyone pays the same rate. So this would mean that the 2.6 million that we pay for RCMP protection, it's more than that if you include the greater Shediac. Does that mean that? Is that what it means? No. The amount that we will receive for the RCMP bill includes the bill for the whole territory. Before, that amount was not included. Well, it was included in the provincial rate.
comme les anciens DSL,
The former LSDs did pay that amount as part of their budget. The difference is that it was perhaps calculated in a different way. Now we are responsible for the whole territory, the whole bill for the whole territory, and that total amount is divided equally among all of the taxation authorities on our territory. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Nobody pays more than us. Nobody's paying more than us. I was just thinking, I think it's a little higher when you include the whole territory together. Once again, the real shared rate should be 67, 68. They should be paying their fair share, but the former town of Shadek is still providing a bit of propping up that amount to bring it to the real amount. And the municipal reform brought forth that we couldn't include the LSDs by more than 5 cents for existing services. So let's say, I'll just use it by example. So let's say that a given project, like the recreation center, were to represent an increase of, we have to increase the taxation rate by 1 cent or 2 cents. For that year, we could increase it the 5 cents because it's a new service. We can increase everyone by 1 cent. So seeing as it's considered a new service, but we're not to that point yet. Once the center is there, we'll be going with 5 cents. All right, I'm happy to see that it's for the town, it's 1.7.
Go
ahead. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Last year, we reduced it a bit. With the freeze, it's not really foreseeable right now. Many other municipalities, I was speaking to my colleagues in other municipalities, there are not many that are looking to bring things down. The freeze does limit new revenue. There are some municipalities that will probably increase them or have harsher cuts on their side. We're lucky that we're staying at that level. We're lucky that we're staying at the same level. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Emile. Just to share some comments of Councillor Cormier. It is indeed the two ladies, Monica and Tina, who played a major role in preparing this budget. I can tell you that Monica started her role in August. Tina joined us in May to try to maintain some consistency within the finance team. Well, I can tell you that I gave them a few challenges. The biggest one being to prepare a budget, but also to quantify the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan wasn't just populated by those two ladies. There's the engineering team, there's a community life team, human resources team, staff team. It's a master document that we've created as a municipality. Last year, when we presented the budget, we weren't comfortable with the version that we had. We had increased in size so much, with so much growth. It was nearly impossible to have an up-to-date version at that point. So the efforts on the part of staff over the past year were to prepare something. Well, unfortunately, we also have to share that it costs more than we thought. So the objective now would be to have a wide-ranging discussion. I don't mean to be specific. Well, I want such and such project. 2027 versus 2028. If you feel comfortable where we are heading, we will work on a document, and an adjusted document based on what we've spoken about, the priorities in terms of critical infrastructure, in terms of improvement to the renovations that we have to do on our infrastructure in the long term, as well as what is included in the strategic planning, to say this is what we're looking at as our priorities for now. And there would remain an impact that we're going to stagger some projects. So if you're comfortable with that approach, and you see what we'll answer, what we'll come up with, we will come up with something. But if you want to influence what we come up with, we would give you the opportunity right now to share with us your concerns, your comments, so that we can include them within our analysis. So I'll allow Councillor Cormier to speak to it, but I'd like to contribute an idea myself. Thank you, Your Worship. I am quite okay that you come back to us with the fully formed egg. If I say this, I don't want this, I have to change this. I need a better foundation of the things that you decide, and the foundations where we could maybe change things around. That would make making decisions easier and more transparent, rather than just say tonight. So that's just me personally. I'd rather you did something with the information. What I will be saying, maybe you put it in your figures already, when it comes to the new recreational center, really give some serious thought to start with a phase one rather than doing all 5 phases at once. I don't know how many phases there will be, but this is a measure that perhaps, instead of making that project inaccessible, well, look, we can at least start with that. It will provide some new infrastructure. Maybe there'll be 2 services, 2 different places for a little while, but it might allow us to have the economic development to start to contribute some more, developing new land. It might be one means. I don't know if that was considered yet. It's in analysis, and our reflection is related to the recreation center, but it's not our preference. We have to analyze it as an organization to analyze the various options. Well, for the rest, in terms of which infrastructure we need where, I would defer to you on that front. I won't be the one deciding, oh, the culvert, such and such a place can stay. No, I don't have that expertise. And for the rest, well, try. I know that you will look at this, but it has to meet the needs of the population. Yes, we have infrastructure that needs some love, some tender love and care, but we have to look at the population's needs to orient investments that are non-critical, you might say. Critical investments, well, there's no choice, really. Those are my 2 cents on that one.
Councillor McEnroy.
Councillor McEnroy.
Thank you.
Anyway.
My personal preference is for strong recommendations from staff. I've never believed that council should, I guess, get overly involved in the operations of a municipality. We have experts in accounting and engineering and all other places, and we have a competent CAO, and the place should be able to run without us. Run with us being governance, policy, procedures, at that kind of a level, but not culverts and sidewalks and that sort of thing. That's my opinion. Other people have different views, I guess, but I'd like to see something strong come back to us. So it's well documented, as Councillor Cormier has said, but also fully supported by staff, and because we can't have a staff that we ask to do certain things and then decide we're not going to follow that recommendation. We want to switch these around. it's not only, I imagine, extremely frustrating for them, but also we pay the staff to do that job. And I think we should keep the two separate.
Them. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McEnroy. That's, I don't want to say music to our ears, but that's how we think and that's how we would like to proceed. But, you know, obviously we want to give you guys the opportunity to have that discussion.
So tu peux acheter la 649 ce soir si tu veux. Mais anyway,
So you can buy your 649 tonight, I guess. Councillor Paul Boudreau. I won't go too much into detail. It was Yves answered something. It was the multifunctional center, the multi-generational center. There are so many names for it. We're on the, I can't remember which phase we're at. I think that the time scale was 3 months in March. When will we have the details for the next step, Julie, that identified the components of the project? I'm looking here, 35, 35, 35. That's 105 million and 3 million for the land. So it's about 110 million dollars. In other words, when will we have a document that will tell us, look, the pool will cost 20 million or 2 million? It will affect things. Harry, you're absolutely right. The center will be a factor in terms of how much we can contribute to other projects, whether it's sidewalks or trucks. We don't want to cut on safety. When will we have this, Julie? When we have more details, the most detail possible, to make a decision, a wise decision, in terms of borrowing for the multi-generational center? We said 3 months. I think that was March, April or so. Is there some delay there? Or if you're comfortable, you can answer. For that 3 months, yes, it was around then. With the vacation, it did slow things down. And the needs analysis, organizations did need to answer those analysis. That's what took more time. We did respect the timeline. We should be receiving the last details over the next 2 weeks. We had a final meeting regarding the operations. So it's really at the end. It was step 5. So step 6 is the presentation. We're just missing the business plan. And as for the construction plan, we're going with the business plan. The construction plan is related to it, but we'll come back with recommendations after budget deliberations. It's important to add as well, we couldn't just analyze the recreation center on its own in terms of the financial capacity. It had to be assessed with all of the other tools. There were tools that were still being developed. I'm far from being the expert on this. I'm not a CPA. I can tell you that I gave 2 minutes to the finance director. The first day, really 3, but 2 major projects that I wanted her to work on. First one was preparing the budget, and 2 was analyze our financial capacity in terms of the 5-year plan. So those 2 things were necessary as part of our analysis regarding the recreation center. Now that we understand that our financial capacity will be impacted given the center, there may be some choices and decisions to make. We made some forecasts that we think, the center may cost over 100 million, but our financial capacity must not, it can't be the only thing that we do. So we put in thresholds in our forecasts that we think we need partners for our project up to at least 50% to do it. We know this now. We will be presenting options. It's where we say there's no choice for the other projects. We have to seek out other partners, maybe something that we did less often before. The budget envelope is not expanding, unfortunately. We're lucky. The province is recognizing
that
as a municipality, a long-standing municipality, and growing one at that, we need to constantly fight. Do we invest in new development or do we renew existing infrastructure? New municipalities that were created as part of the reform, they might invest in renewing older infrastructure. Actually, it's not existent. It's not a factor for them. We already have existing things. We don't have that choice. So the new municipalities that perhaps didn't have much infrastructure, yeah, they can invest in the development. They can invest there. We, unfortunately, don't have the choice in that regard. But the province now recognizes that and gives amounts to us that we can apply to our projects to less face the old versus new problem. It gives you a bit of perspective on it. That's my basic question. The center, the mayor referred to this phases. If that's where we're at, I'm very comfortable with that. We need to know if it's a $2 million amount for a festival. Do you want a nice surface? These are the questions that the population will be asking. We're evaluating this. Okay. Thank you, Julie. Also, just to update you, with the engineering department, we decided to redo the building analysis. We want to see its current condition. Something had happened in the past, but we really want to update things properly and get some recommendation as to what we can do with the house building once we have the new building center, the new recreation center. Only the architects will be able to inform us of that. I just wanted to come back to the presentation I did last time on the work that we have to do next year with the recreation center. We're not going to build anything yet. There's work to be done to get the money for it. And that's what we'll be concentrating on next year. My last point, Your Worship, and to staff and council, it's one of the less popular items. I've seen this document. There's no money set aside for Maison Pascal Poirier, and the amount in here from $900,000. Who did the assessment? Can I see a copy of the report? Who assessed that it would cost $900,000 for Pascal Poirier House? We have an assessment that dates back to 2022. Right now, I'll tell you that for that amount, that's a foreseeable amount. No, sorry. It's a forecast, actually. As part of our assessment internally, we'll update the number for the report. It could be better, it could be worse. We were conservative. We just doubled the amount that was presented. It was about $450,000, $460,000, because everything seems to have doubled over the same period of time. But we will update it in the report regarding Pascal Poirier House. My worry, I'll say publicly, I don't want the amounts to be ballooned to make a decision. That's why I want to update the figures so that it's a real figure. There's no money as well for water access. Is a done deal that no, we see water access potentially as a special project on the part of the council in a given year. There could be an investment. We continue to assess all of the options for water access. Right now, no, there's no specific amount, but it could be. If it becomes a council priority beyond another one, it could have an impact on the 5-year plan, for sure. Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Yves. I know these are not very popular items, but they need to be raised. We will certainly take into account your comments. All items that involve an expense have to be discussed. Councillor Peter Breaux. So in terms of all of the expenses that are set out there, would you expect to give us a draft version in terms of the essential projects, the ones that are, let's say, non-negotiable? At some point, we can't deny that some projects have to be done. So will we have a list of those projects that are non-negotiable, then the other ones would come after. I think it's important that we have that, so not spend time debating things. If we have to not debate the necessity of certain things, so you will know. Nobody will deny if you had to remove busted pipes. We need a list of items that are non-negotiable, that absolutely must be done. There'll be a cost associated with that, and then it'd be easier for the rest of council to be able to judge and prioritize other situations and not have to fall on certain items that are non-negotiable. If I look at the engineering team, I presume that when we redo this, we could identify with a certain color or highlight such and such a project that we would consider to be critical over those years. So you'll see them as our recommendations, our stable, reliable recommendation that we have to do them that year. And I would presume that there'd be a certain component, some flexibility during a certain year. It might not be reliable. It might not be a priority in 2026. Maybe you can push it back into 2028. But in 2028, we can maybe put the expense as an absolute requirement. If you want to bring it back further, you have to do it in 2028. There might be a project that be planned for 28, 29 that might be able to push back 5, 6, 7 years. Maybe it's less critical or less imperative if there's in the case of a critical failure. For example, last year in Calgary, there was a breakage of the water main for the municipality. The municipality had pushed it back. Oh, we'll do it next year. We'll do it next year. And over a certain period, it led to a critical fault. The service level had to be reduced for users for 3, 4, 5 months before the level of service could be brought back. At what cost as well? Certainly, we will make recommendations. And this project should not be staggered for an extensive period. It should be perhaps this year, next year, or the year after. We can certainly do that recommendation. I'm pleased that you raised the case of Calgary. It's a great example. If we start to work on non-negotiable things, it can cost us a lot, and it's a bad decision ultimately. Absolutely. We can make those recommendations. There's a whole host of decisions that can be taken when you're in a bad situation. Some municipalities over the last year, in 2025, they said the patching budget is 0. They canceled all patching. That's making really hard choices. There'll be potholes. It extends things, and it does not help your road surface at all. But when you have the choice in the matter, that's where certain municipalities have ended up last year. Our financial situations allows us to do both. The non-negotiables and other things, and a few other things. And if I might add, the engineering department always looks at new technologies, new approaches in terms of maintaining our roads, in terms of the sidewalks. They acknowledge that we can push back rebuilding some sidewalks. Some staggering. Instead of replacing the full sidewalk, perhaps we can do some grinding and level them. Yes, it will have an aesthetic impact. It might not be as attractive as a new sidewalk, but you can stagger the investment, push it back in terms of fully replacing the sidewalk by doing things like that. And there are savings to be had along the way. That's just one example. But we continue to assess different solutions to not have to pay the full cost for renewal.
excuse le mot anglais,
if you were looking to extend the life of our infrastructure and our assets until the time, well, you don't have the choice of the matter and you have to replace them.
That's bien.
Thank you.
Madame la maire supérieure.
Madam Deputy Mayor, thank you, Your Worship. I don't want to repeat. I don't want to repeat things, but I appreciate everything that the people are saying. I'm not a figure numbers person. You know it. I've been here for 13 years, and you know well that I'm not a numbers person. I'm listening. I'm not going to fall into a trap here. All I can say is that we worked hard on a strategic plan, and I appreciate the fact that you've said that you're using it throughout this. And I'm not sure what it's called, but the investigation, the asset management, all of that. These are items where it's easy for us to repeat to the population, to reassure them that the administrative work is being done and done well. The report that we had tonight was incredible. And I heard everyone. There's the nice to haves and the must haves. The must haves are important. The nice to haves, well, it's when we can. And in the past, we were obliged to do this, and I appreciate that we can do this. Sometimes it costs money to be able to have extra money. The trunk line, for example, we were solid enough, sturdy enough to say that we can go forward with this because we're receiving lots of money. This is all, I'll tell you things. I'm not going to nickel and dime things here on inaudible. The recommendations made in the last slide, I'm fully agree with what was presented, even with the increase, the progressive increase of the water service. I'll stop there. Thank you. Councillor Paul Boudreau. I forgot an item in this. Yves, the town hall, 0. Well, congratulations though. First, it's a lot. It looks a lot nicer. It's not us, but the perception is what is important. But the town hall, will the town hall? Peter raised a good point on the priority matters or important ones that at least. What is your thought about the town hall? Right now, in the 5-year plan, we have an item for assessing options for our home, if you will. We're working with a consultant to conduct an analysis on our current needs in terms of the space required. We're also doing analysis right now of the building. The existing building, is it in a condition where we want to continue to be here? Do we need to ask the owner if we stay here to make improvements, large things, etc.? And this will lead to analysis. And we had a third option. It's to build or create something new. So we're working on that file right now as part of our analyses, but we're not ready to make a recommendation. We're basically have just started this analysis over the last few months.
Oh, so it will have an impact on operating budget, like the rent and. But at least we'll know. We will have some information we can rely on, like what are the needs of the municipalities, and then we'll be able. It will be like so this bigger decision while another council will take it. So we are working on developing this information so they're able to move on this one instead of being stuck. And because the lease date like is December 2028. There's still some time left, but really in 2026 we should decide like how where the municipality is going. Like that, this is a file I have on my plane right now with the engineering team, with the analysis of the existing building, and
nos besoins à court terme.
in our short and long-term needs for the locations we have. So when you do this analysis, are you talking about the library too?
Absolument, elle doit faire partie de notre
Absolutely,
analyse.
like the library has to be part of our analysis.
Il y a plusieurs multitudes de choses.
So there are many multitude of things like we have to analyze when it comes to the library. Is the existing location is the best one?
Le montant d'espace est adéquat.
The space amount is good, like we're analyzing those things. Thank you.
Donc, autre chose pour ce soir.
Anything else for this evening? So that's what we had on the menu for this evening. So we would like to thank you for listening and your patience for this evening.
Un sourire sur une soirée de budget.
A smile on the budget night. Well,
Alors, on va se rouler les manches, travailler.
so we will roll up our sleeves, work,
à la prochaine date de
and go back
débat.
with the date of budget
Le
discussion.
27, le 27 et le 29, il y a deux rencontres.
Yeah, there's two meetings. So the October 27th and 29th.
Donc, merci beaucoup. Puis, conseillère
Thank you very much. And Councilor Jamin is moving the adjournment. So thank you very much and have a great evening.